Good afternoon, everyone. Is it too loud or are we good? We're good? All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining this breakout session. I know it's been a good, long, and productive day, so appreciate you coming in to continue the learning. I'm going to be talking about retail and obviously CDP within retail. All right, so I thought I'd just start by introducing myself to you. So hello. And on the left shows my years of experience. So I've spent just over 25 years working in the retail space. Started as a kid and really never left. And over that time, I've spent time with grocery chains like Albertsons and Meijer, but also CPG chains like Kraft. And in the last 5 years, I spent time with Casey's. Casey's is a Fortune 500 convenience store retailer with about 2,800 stores. I served as the chief marketing officer there. Over my years in retail, I've spent a lot of time with MarTech, AdTech. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then obviously CDP. So earlier this year, I made a shift in my career to have a greater impact on the industry, and I launched NexChapter. NexChapter is a growth advisory firm focused on retail and brands. I also have the pleasure of being chairman of the advisory board of C-Store Tech. That's an industry advisory board focused on the convenience store industry. I sit on the Shop Talk advisory board, and I'm an executive advisor to Treasure Data. So that's my background. I did want to just touch on what I do at Treasure Data. So as an executive advisor, I get to support some areas across Treasure Data. First, partnering with the marketing team on just strategy and positioning. How is CDP showing up? How do we talk about it in the industry? And then I get to partner with product and sales teams on retailer use cases. And that's what I get really excited about since I've had the chance to buy and implement a CDP, and most importantly, activate a CDP and drive value. A couple other areas that my growth advisory firm helps clients in, we spend a lot of time on the data that feeds a CDP. All right, so that's it for the background. We'll get into the content. So this is what I plan to cover. I'll talk a little bit about retail trends. Some of it, you'll be aware of it. Hopefully some of it is relatable to your businesses. And then I'll obviously talk about customer data platform as a way to drive growth, and then share some use cases. And then towards the end, we'll have some time for some questions. Alrighty, so we'll get into it. There's a lot on this slide, but I wanted to share the areas that I spend a lot of time thinking about, which is the grocery and convenience retail business. And when you put these two businesses together, it accounts for almost 33% of consumer spending in the US. So it's a big, big business. It's a great indicator on the health of, a couple interesting stats. The grocery business serves 30 to 40 million customers a day, daily, 30 on Monday through Thursday, and then closer to 40 over the course of the weekend. The convenience store industry, really interesting, serves 160 million customers daily. So in these industries, you have a whole lot of customers transacting every single day, creating a whole lot of data. All right, so I also know that this slide is pretty busy with a bunch of numbers that you may or may not be able to see, but I did want to share that US retailing overall, beyond just grocery and convenience, is pretty strong this year. It's trending above inflation, growing at roughly 4% for this year with inflation closer to 3%. So that's good, because the last few years, all of the growth was tied directly to inflation. So consumers are continuing to splurge on things like furniture and electronics, and then we're seeing the role of e-commerce and the digitization of the store continue to grow. So that's what's happening in retail very broadly. And then another interesting stat is that tech spending is growing faster than retail sales. So retail sales forecasted to grow at 4%, tech spending within retail increasing by 6 to 10%. So if you work in technology, this is good. You have a budget to spend and invest on all the things to hopefully grow your business. The flip side of that is it puts a lot more pressure on every penny spent on tech to drive a return, okay? So every dollar spent on tech has to drive value to the business. So I'm going to spend a few minutes and talk about some trends that I believe are shaping retail very broadly, and I do think some of these trends transcend beyond just retailing into other industries. So first, we'll spend a little time talking about omnichannel. We'll get into generational shifts, and then personalization. So three of some of my favorite topics. We'll jump into omnichannel first. And so, what is omnichannel? That word's used a lot in our businesses and at various conferences. Here's a visual in its most simplest form. In retail, we used to operate in a single channel, meaning the retailer would find the best location on Main and Main, and the customers would interact just with that store. Okay, so that's a single channel mode. Over the last decade or so, we really evolved to this multi-channel where customers could still come to the store, but also order on the website or interact via the mobile app. So that's the multi-channel world. And in this new omni-channel world, the customer's in the center. All the experiences in commerce are seamlessly built around the customer. So that's kind of what we mean by omni-channel. And a couple things that we're seeing. First is click and collect or curbside pickup continues to grow and become a meaningful part of the retail business. Certainly a big portion of that is coming from grocery, as grocers like Walmart and Kroger and even Target have leaned into this space. What I find really interesting is that when you look at click and collect, which is technically some sort of a channel, we're seeing a little bit of shift from curbside pickup to in-store pickup in the industry. And so what we're finding is that consumers still want the convenience of ordering in an app and outsourcing their everyday goods to the grocery store to pick, pack, and stage, but they actually want to come in the store and pick those orders up and then go browse other sections. And it's interesting, during my time at Meijer a few years back, I saw that trend starting where consumers would order ahead and we would pick 150 grocery items and have them staged and ready to go, and then that customer would go browse our home electronics or apparel sections. But what I love about all of this is, as this trend continues to grow, there are more consumers interacting on a mobile app, which means there's more data. And there's more ability to influence behavior with things like cross-sell and upsell and suggestive sell and all of that. Another big trend that continues to grow in retailing broadly is delivery. And when you break delivery down, there's actually some segments in here. You have same-day delivery, which is really dominated by Amazon. There's also Shipt, which Target acquired in order to have a same-day delivery value proposition. So that's one piece. The second is grocery delivery, really dominated by Instacart, who saw just a dramatic surge during the COVID era as every grocer wanted to unlock e-commerce. And then there's, of course, restaurant delivery, which DoorDash has claimed the #1 spot in. Now DoorDash has stepped into groceries and hard lines and all of that. But what I find just interesting about this is these delivery companies continue to capture consumer attention. And I can speak from my experiences as a retailer. I signed up and gave my catalog to all of these companies to grab incremental revenue. And we got it, but in exchange for customer data. So when you order through any of these applications, they own the customer relationship. So that's a big watch out for anyone in retailing is, yes, you're getting incremental revenue, but you lose the customer data. And if you look at some of the stats I added here in terms of monthly active users and downloads, these are significant amount of consumers flowing through third-party companies. Another thing we're seeing within the delivery space is some innovation happening. Here in the US, the FAA has authorized some drone operators to fly in certain parts of the country. Some of the testing is going on in Texas. I find it interesting to observe. I know that there are concerns about taking these drones to highly populated cities like Manhattan, for example, might be a challenge to just have a drone drop a delivery. We've also seen in rural towns where Wi-Fi infrastructure is a little harder to get the GPS on these drones, and so we'll see. We will learn from the experiments. And then there's some innovation happening in packaging. So there's some packaging meant to keep products fresher so they can last a delivery route, maybe for hours or even a day or two. And now we've got packaging that's connected so that consumers can track where that package is. So a lot happening in this space within delivery, within retailing. And then digitizing the in-store experience is another big trend within omnichannel. And last week I had the chance to be in Vegas, so Vegas 2 weeks in a row. And I attended the Grocery Shop Conference, which is a conference focused on technology innovation in the grocery industry. And I had the chance to meet Vusion, Simbi, and Caper. A lot of good things happening with these companies. On the far left, Walmart has leaned into electronic shelf labels in a big way with a commitment to launch 2,300 stores, nearly half of their fleet, in the next 2 years. Why are they doing electronic shelf labels? Well, there's a lot of labor associated with organizing tags, pulling the tags, putting the new tag, auditing the tags, so there's labor savings when it's electronic shelf labels. You can have dynamic pricing, so certain times of the day or night you can actually change the price to either optimize profits or entice something to be sold. I know that's a debatable topic. And then the more they see order ahead and e-commerce orders coming in, their fulfillment pickers can go in an aisle with the app and lights will spark up where the products are. So you can quickly go grab that product to increase the picking time and improve margins. So we got that going on. Simbi Robotics has launched a robot they call Tally in a handful of stores, and Tally the robot flows up and down aisles and scans the aisle for out of stocks and then triggers a view of the inventory and lets the manager know that 10-ounce Cheerios are out of stock. And by the way, you have it in the back room in Bay 4, so go fill that. And then finally, Instacart acquired Caper a while back and is launching these Caper carts in various retail customers where customers can check themselves out in real time, but now you're getting ads promoted as you're walking through the aisles. So a lot of digitizing happening in the in-store experience. And anytime I think about the word digitizing, to me it means more data, more ability to influence a purchase at some point. In this case, when you're as close to transacting in that mindset. All right, so ultimately, consumers want an omnichannel experience. We hear that all the time, we see that, but you really think about these trends and some of the things happening, I can tell you they want omnichannel experiences. Matter of fact, by a survey, it said 73% of retail shoppers are actually omnichannel. So what does that mean? They want seamless experiences. They want to interact across multiple touch points, and it shouldn't be awkward or clunky or different. It should just be seamless. The brand needs to show up the same way across all these touch points. And now I want multiple ways to shop. My favorite retailer. I want multiple ways to order and return, and so omnichannel is a trend that will continue. All right, let's talk about generational shifts. And this is really interesting because, you know, all of us attend various conferences in our industries, and you hear speakers talk about the generational shifts. I've heard lots of it, and I find lots of it interesting. There was a lot of talk a handful of years ago about millennials and all of that, but honestly, I believe that, call it every 8 to 10 years, all the chatter about generational shifts are real, because you start to see not just interesting shifts, but spending power starting to shift. And at that point, you really have to pay attention or you'll be left behind. So this is interesting visual that I pulled showing the different generations, but also the spending power by these generations. And The one I find most intriguing is Gen Z, and that's, I think, age 29 to age 15. That's at 14.3%. The headline here is our older consumers are sort of aging out, and we have a younger consumer coming in to retailing. And the question I would pose is, are we ready for that? So let's look at the Gen Z consumer a little bit here. They're known to do extensive research before shopping. So they do it online. They're reading ratings and reviews. They're always comparing prices to make sure they get the best deal. They're going to TikTok for their favorite influencer to see what they say, right? The Gen Z wants to know what Kim Kardashian or Ariana Grande says about an item before they make a purchase. That's a little different than some of us. They're also the first generation to have constant access to the internet. They're connected 24/7, right? Some of us know that feeling when you're in the airplane and you're approaching 10,000 and then you're just going up and you lose the Wi-Fi and you have immediate FOMO, right? This generation has it 24/7. They have FOMO if they're not connected. 100% of Gen Z uses social media to stay connected with friends and family. They see physical and digital worlds as just one. It's all blending. They can be texting with a friend, walking to go meet that friend, viewing stories on Instagram and sharing stories and reels, and then communicating with that same friend there about the same conversation from a text, only to land at the spot where they're meeting their friend and just carry that conversation on. It's completely blending. And then the one that I saw affect my business as a former CMO the most is the fact that their attention span has changed dramatically. So if anyone's in advertising, part of my role as a CMO was I had the advertising team too. There are no 60-second spots. There are barely 30-second spots. I was investing in 15-second spots at best for broadcast linear TV. But this generation, they want 6-second YouTube shorts. They want reels, they want videos. They don't want to watch long TV commercials. So we've got to change the way we advertise to reach this consumer. And they have a need for speed. Everything has to be fast. Everything needs to be delivered, from orders to communications. If they text you or they text your business, they want an immediate response. If they tweet about an issue, they want it immediately, or they're retweeting and tweeting again. They get instant gratification and they want results very, very quickly. They want everything on their smartphones, which is digital, which creates more data. And they just demand access all the time. So once again, no matter what your businesses are we ready for this consumer that's now garnering nearly 15% of the US spending power? And then finally, Gen Z is quite concerned about data privacy. They're very concerned, much more than prior generations. They're concerned about the exposure of their private information. They're the ones taking the steps to protect their privacy. They're clearing cookies, using anonymous browsers. They don't want anyone to track them or know where they've been on the World Wide Web. They're, quite frankly, skeptical of companies' ability to keep their data safe. All right, if you have a cyber attack or something like that, they will freak out and they will hold the brand accountable and they won't spend money somewhere that they don't trust. However, in multiple studies that I've seen, they're willing to share data in exchange for improved experiences. So again, you've got to keep the data safe, you've got to be transparent, you need to manage consent, you need the right tools and capabilities and technology. And in exchange for that safety and transparency, they're very open to improved experiences. And the one that I like to talk about is personalization. Okay, so we'll move to that next trend. And so, you all have seen many of these stats over time, and they're all over the internet with all the research that's been done. But essentially, consumers, they prefer companies that offer personalized experience. Who doesn't? You want to open up your Nordstrom app and you want to shop for a shirt and you want them to recommend a pair of pants or a pair of shoes. You want a personalized experience. It makes it easy. You feel like you have a relationship with that retailer. 70% of consumers say a personalized experience in which the employee knows who they are and their shopping history is very important. They don't want to go to the return counter at Target and have to reintroduce themselves when they spend $600 a month with them and it's on the Target Red Card, right? The data should flow to the point of sale. We should know who they are. So consumers want personalized experiences. Okay, it makes sense. What's the problem? Why don't we all just go do it? Well, it's not as easy. There's all kinds of things to navigate. Cookie deprecation has been weighing on us as marketers for years now. And I think I just read, I'm sort of kind of done reading it, but Google just announced that it's not deprecating, right? So what does that mean? I don't know, we'll see. In my opinion, whether they deprecate or not, first-party data is still the king. Pursue all the initiatives that we are already pursuing. Privacy regulation. Of course, there's GDPR, CCPA. In the US, there are 20 states with different privacy regulation. As a CMO, I had 2,800 stores operating in 21 states. Half of those had some privacy regulation. So that adds complexity to the marketers. And then someone on the main stage this morning referenced what Google and Apple have done, giving consumers choice. So I simply say, nope, don't track me. This is what marketers are dealing with. And they're dealing with all the pressure for return on investment. Just like the tech folks are getting pressure on ROI for all the tech budget, marketers are getting the same type of pressure. What am I getting for those dollars? Is that advertising or that YouTube short? Is it generating any sales? They're feeling that pressure. Walled gardens seem to continue to change their rules, right? Meta, for me as a marketer, was very productive, but it's hard to manage. I had to have people just dedicated to thinking about Meta ads all day long. And finally, data is fragmented. So if we all know that it makes common sense, consumers want personalized experiences, but we also know our folks, our marketers, us or our teams, they're facing all of these issues. And we can do something about all of these. I'll spend a little time talking about data fragmentation. When data is fragmented, it leads to all kinds of issues. Your customer experience is just poor. You don't have the data to build the right customer experience. You don't have visibility to the data. Reporting isn't good. You just don't know where it is. Again, when I joined Casey's, which is arguably a really good retailer, especially if you look at the stock price, it's been successful. But when I joined them in 2018, data was in 7 different databases. We didn't have anywhere to centrally store it. It wasn't deduped, it was just very, very clunky. There was an email ESP database, there was a customer service database, there was somewhat of a CRM, but not really, so multiple databases. It's hard to find the data, like how do you know how you're performing? So what do you do about all of that? Well, that's where the role of CDP steps in my view. I've had the opportunity to launch 2 CDPs in my career, once as a grocer with a really big technology firm, part of a whole digital transformation, and then the second time with a convenience store operator, also undergoing a pretty big digital transformation. So I've got the chance to do it twice, and I've learned quite a lot about how to activate it and what you need from a partner and all of that stuff. So, 1 through 5, these are the most simple terms. 1 is, well, I like to say just organize the data, but then unify it. So get everything tied to one record, have that golden record, that single source of truth for your customer data. A second thing you want to do is you want to enrich it. 0 party, second party, third party, anything you can to enrich that data so you can deepen that relationship with personalized experiences. You want to engage your customer and then, again, personalize it and then drive insights. So the most simple way I like to talk about what a CDP can bring to an organization. And by the way, I think CDP is an enterprise tool. Today I'm going to talk more a little bit about marketing, but know that My view is it's a full enterprise capability. So, okay, so what do we do with a CDP? I'm guessing 3/4 of the room or maybe half the room has a CDP. Maybe half of that half are experts. But there may be a lot of people in the room, and definitely in the conference overall, who don't really know how the data flows or how a CDP works. So I thought, let me put together a simple visual that shows a whole bunch of source data. And by the way, you can have a whole lot of source data feeding a CDP. I think the number I had were 60 different data sources feeding my CDP. And I thought that was a lot until I had a chat with the treasure data folks who said, well, we have this one client who's a global beer manufacturer, and they've got hundreds, if not thousands, of data sources. So your choice. I had 60 or so when I was a retailer. Feeding my CDP, you've got various ways to integrate that data, out-of-the-box connectors, APIs, SDKs, all of that good stuff that brings the data into the data platform. Ingest it, cleanse it, unify it, let it all do the work, right? I won't get technical now, but it all does the work. And finally, you can create audiences. You can segment your customers, and I'll show you some examples of that later. I also believe that, and I did this at my last gig, you could take those segments and not just activate them with your owned media channels, but you can also take it as a seed file and go build lookalike models in a DSP to improve your media spend. That's a tremendous use case that immediately drives ROI on your technology investment. And finally, your customer journeys, which, by the way, I will share some examples of customer journeys with you. And then you move to activate. So again, a simple visual showing how a CDP works. So I think it creates a ton of value across an organization, whether you're a retailer, hotel, airline chain, et cetera. Unify your data. ID resolution, that's its own topic. I would love to spend time on that topic at some point. Data privacy, compliance, governance. Remember that Gen Z who's very nervous about the data. We need that capability. And then activate it. Find the right audience segment to activate against. Unlock marketing automation to do the job for you, and then personalize those experiences. So it creates a significant amount of value for an organization. So I will talk a little bit about marketing automation. On the far left, something that I really found useful with the CDP is what I called segment exploration. So I'd be in a meeting talking about the business. Part of the business is trending down, or we need to bolster another part of the business. Right after the meeting, I'd walk over to my marketing automation team and say, what's going on? A, B, C. Let's find the audience. Is it big enough to activate a campaign again? In many cases, because my loyalty program was robust, I had a big enough audience to run a campaign against. And this is in a matter of minutes. Like Kaz shared on the main stage earlier, I literally came out of a conference room, went over to the marketing person, we found the audience in 5 to 10 minutes, and we're pushing a campaign out in real time, all right? So that was one thing that I really enjoyed about having a CDP. The rest of the stuff, I'll show some examples of this, but I believe in life cycle journeys as a way to get a whole lot of value for your technology. And you use that automation to do the job that otherwise we would have had to have FTEs do. And so I'll show you a very practical example. Triggered campaigns, a great way to influence your customers' behavior, and then scheduled campaigns. And all of this needs some prioritization and collision management and all that stuff. So I'll share some examples with you with the caveat that you need to have some internal processes and tools. And I had a DAM, and I had a CMS, and I had a marketing calendar, and I had the right meetings to run the cadence to make sure I didn't show Red Bull at the pump and then Monster inside the screen in store. You need to make sure that everything is sort of seamless. So let me take you through some very practical examples, and hopefully you can relate to them whether you're in retail or an adjacent category or a different business sector. So On this particular one, again, a pretty busy slide, but I'm just showing you an example of a life cycle journey that I had built out leveraging CDP. This is for a convenience store chain, but no matter what business you're in, just pull my stuff out, put your stuff in, lay out your journey. On the far left, under the attract bucket, this is mass marketing. This is those advertising dollars, just push your brand message out. You're trying to reach as many people as you can. You're driving impressions and awareness. And then with that, you start investing in acquiring customers to pull that record in and put it in your CDP. All right, that requires some data. So this is all the digital media. This is maybe leveraging your in-store environment with signs and QR codes and employees trying to get you to sign up for their loyalty program. Once that data is acquired, it goes in and you begin to follow the life cycle. We nurture that customer to join loyalty, their welcome journey, their offers, et cetera. Try to get them to their first transaction, and then their second and third, and then in this case, get them to opt into tobacco offers and alcohol offers. That has complexity because you need age and identity verification. So we had journeys to move a customer through there. And then you just engage them. Engage them on their birthday. At Casey's, we gave them a free donut, and that was delightful to customers. We told them when they earned a certain points threshold because that delighted them too. They felt they were accomplishing something. And then sort of just moving through, if you need to retain a customer, you have some journeys for that. And unfortunately, sometimes you lose customers, and so there's a set of recover journeys where you try to go after customers and bring them back in. And there's a picture here. I show Racetrack offering a free coffee, so that's something you'd offer to a high-value customer that might have lapsed. For us, our lapsed were 21 days. So for different businesses, it'd be different criteria. But here's a very simple example of a life cycle journey. This was probably 50% of my monthly message sends, done by one marketing automation manager who programmed it, managed it, watched it, reported on it. Not a lot of hands on keyboards once you get it set up. Now you need to have a cycle of review on it, but marketing automation doing the work for us. Let's take a look at this triggered campaign. And so another pretty simple example where I go up to a gas pump. This is a Quick Star location. And I enter my credit card. That unlocks the pump, right? Everyone here can relate to that because nearly every consumer gets gas at some point. And then it asks me for my loyalty number. So I punch that in, basically authenticating who I am. That data then goes up to the CDP. The CDP knows me and interrogates the offer bank available. And what it does is it triggers an SMS to show me the most relevant offer for me, people like me, and in this case, it's a ZOA energy drink. So while I'm standing at the pump for 90 seconds, waiting for my car to fill up, I see the SMS for ZOA, and I'm kind of like, well, I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and buy that. And then I turn to hang up the pump, and an ad plays at the pump, right? So this is contextual relevance driven by data. Seems pretty simple, right? But initially, I was going to fill up my gas and I was going to get out of there because I had other stuff to do. In this case, I'm incentivized to come inside. And so what do? I walk into the store. I go right to the cold vault where I know all the cold beverages are. I grab that ZOA. That's what I call an influence purchase. That SMS and that fuel pump display ad made me come in there to grab the ZOA. As I turn around, I see chips. Who doesn't need chips with that energy drink? So I grab a bag of chips. That's a high affinity purchase. It just makes a ton of sense, a beverage and a snack. And then as I'm walking out the store, I see something that Quickstar has that differentiates them, so it's a unique product. They have bagged milk. If anyone's from the Midwest, you're familiar with bagged milk at Quickstar, Quick Trip stores. So I grabbed that because why not? So that's an impulse purchase. So I was influenced to come in, I found a high affinity item, and then I did some impulse. Now I'm walking to go check out and pay. but quick start is sampling mac and cheese balls before I get to the register. This is merchandising at its finest. And so I look at the hot case after sampling it, and I think to myself, well, I was going to go home and have a salad, but I'm not now. And I buy those mac and cheese balls. You see what's happening here? This is marketing and merchandising coming together to drive sales. And so let's do the math on what just happened. I was coming in to fill up my gas. It was $80, 35 cents CPG, that's cents per gallon. That's how we talk margin in fuel. So the retailer was going to make $28 profit on that gas, and I was going to go home. However, because we had the data, because we had the tech stack in place, I came in, I spent an incremental $10.21, or incremental gross profit of $4.39. It was all pretty logical, right? As I walk through that flow, you don't see anything that stands out as wild or crazy. Well, let's continue that math exercise here and extrapolate that. Incremental $4.39. Let's assume that all we need to do is get one customer a day from the pump inside the store. One a day, right? Some gas stations have 700 a day. Some have 1,000 a day. Remember, there's 40 million gas fill-ups a year across the U.S. daily. And so all we got to do is just get one to come in with all that MarTech that's, by the way, automated. If you're a 300-store chain and you move one in a day per store times 365, you brought in $480,000 of incremental gross profit. You're effectively letting the marketing automation pay for the technology investments. All right, so that's a simple use case. And when you look at these triggered campaigns, I believe that there's enough ROI here to justify your CDP investment. All right, it's about getting to the right audience at the right place at the fuel pump where I know they're waiting for 90 seconds at the right time with the right offer, right? It's all about being right. And again, I show here some more stats, 152,000 convenience stores in the country, 40 million transactions a day means only on average 262. It's believable that you can get one a day to come in. That's a 0.38 conversion rate. And so I would argue that with the right journeys, with the right triggers, you can easily get payback on your technology. All right, let's look at one more example, which is what I call a segmented campaign. And so in this particular case, I was in a meeting and we needed to drive breakfast sandwich sales, hot breakfast sandwiches, which sit in a warmer by our kitchen. Why do we need to drive that category? Well, there was a dip in sales through COVID because people weren't driving. And then work from home impacted that. They weren't driving around getting a cup of coffee and a breakfast sandwich. And so I thought, well, we need to do something about this. We need to spark sales. McDonald's is reporting high breakfast sales. Wendy's is reporting, I need to get my share. So this is all fake numbers. I used to have 8 million members, but to keep it pretty simple, I take a look at 1 million loyalty members. Without a customer data platform, what would a retailer do? They'd send an offer to all million, right? And so in that case, you have a handful of those customers who are already going to come in and buy the breakfast sandwich, so you're subsidizing sales with a discount when it's not needed, basically degrading margin. With a CDP, I can take a look at those loyalty members and say, show me only those with an email subscription. I whittled it down to 925,000. So 75,000 are loyalty members, but they say no emails. So now we're at 925. And since I'm driving a specific category sale, I say, show me those that shop in the morning day part, which is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's all I want to talk to. If they only shop my stores at night, I don't need to send them an offer. And those that buy coffee. So I know that they're in the breakfast mindset inside of my store, and I know they're drinking coffee. So they like my coffee. Why wouldn't they like my sandwich? But never bought a hot breakfast sandwich or burrito from my store. So now we're at 575,000. Of the 1 million, I send those folks an email campaign, yes, with a discount. So it's buy a coffee, because I know you buy coffee from me, so I have your attention, and get a breakfast sandwich for 50% off. All right, so when you look at that, here's the math on a regular price of coffee at $1.99, a 65 gross margin gets you the $129 expected gross profit. Those are those customers who are going to come to my store anyway and buy coffee. Now I've enticed them with a hot breakfast sandwich that's regularly $3.29 at a gross profit of 55%, sells for $1.48, so you typically make a really good margin. But I was willing to invest a little bit to lure those customers to my hot breakfast sandwich warmer. So I promoted it at $1.65, which allowed me still to make some money at 17 cents gross profit per unit incrementally. Remember, these customers never bought a breakfast sandwich. So when you look at the stats, look, nobody ever sees 100% redemption. It's not real. I saw a whole lot of 50% when I gave away free stuff. Something like a BOGO, I would see a 33% redemption. So on this particular campaign, with 1 million loyalty members, just think about the scale. I had 8, so times this times 8. 33% redemption got you 32,000 on one targeted campaign. So hopefully you can see how investing in the technology and laying out a really smart customer lifecycle journey using triggered campaigns that when a customer does this, send them this, filling up a gas, send them the ZOA, and then looking at behavior and adding adjacent categories. This stuff can pay itself back, which is why I had the opportunity to continue to invest in more MarTech, more ad tech. So I think a CDP helps in a lot of areas, right? I said it's an enterprise tool. Right now I'm narrowing in, because we have a short amount of time, just on marketing use cases. What I showed you was it improved marketing activation. Things like your email, your SMS, your app push, your app inbox, and many of the CDPs have all kinds of AIs that unlock time send optimization, channel optimization, all that good stuff, visual and copy and all of that. I didn't get to the other two. That's for another day because we don't have the time. But like I said, with a CDP, you can develop a seed file. I used to look at 20% of the file to be my seed file, and then I would go to LiveRamp, my DSP, and I would build the lookalike model and then go target those consumers. That drove paid media efficiency. And then finally, again, another really big topic, but I love this use case. I've launched 2 retail media networks, the first one at Meijer in 2017, the second one at Casey's in 2023, which is first-party data sets the foundation for your retail media network, no matter what type of company you are, commerce media or retail media. So significant impact. All right, we're coming up to the close here. So just to recap it, what I shared were some trends I think we need to watch. So hopefully those are relatable no matter what your business is. I will reiterate that I believe customer data is your #1 asset. I think Mark Tack said it on the main stage this morning. I think Kaz said it. It's your #1 asset, so you need to organize it, unify it, enrich it, grow it. Most importantly, I would challenge you to activate that data, just like these very practical use cases I shared. So, and then finally, again, practical activations. You don't have to go from 0 to 60 overnight. I believe investing in practical things that demonstrate ROI, that give me more credibility in the organization to invest more capability, more promotions, et cetera. So with that, I think we might have a handful of minutes for some questions. If there's anything you want to ask or comment, please just stand up and, yeah.
So thank you all. I think it was really insightful. Going back to your operations role, how do you see the overlap on... So I'm Yush from Petco. How do you see the overlap on your data platform, especially around MDM and CDP? And the second piece on the activation between Marketing Cloud and then the activation using CDP.
Okay, yeah. So I think the question was like customer data versus master data. There's product data, and there's a big data warehouse. And I would share it at the company I worked at last. We had all of it. You need some sort of big master database. I use Databricks to hold all the data so various parts of the organization can do stuff with that data. Supply chain, accounting, inventory management. You need an MDM, so just like we know everything about our customer, we should know everything about our product. But as the marketeer and the technologist, you have to know about the customer. So one way or another, if we were to draw an architectural diagram, those data sets are feeding each other. Okay, then the next question was, what tools do you use in the CDP versus a marketing activation platform? I mean, it depends on what you buy, right? I mean, for me, if I'm putting my data in a CDP, that CDP better have capability to unlock that data. And then the ESP or the map tool is simply a commodity that sends the messaging out. And I do love what Kaz said earlier. I don't know if you guys caught it, but you know, CDP should help you send a whole lot less messages. Because for every message we send, that's money spent. And a lot of times we get away inside of a company paying OpEx to cover our tech costs. But if those message sends were equal to paid media spend, like Facebook campaigns and Google ads, it would be interrogated. So I think put the tooling as close to the data as possible would be my view. Any other questions or comments? Yes, I think a mic is coming right at you here.
I was last week in a meeting with top media agencies, directors, and some CMOs, and it seems that all these Google measure in June, many of them are really lose the incentive to keep pushing the CDP. No, they know they need to do it, but there's so much pain and hassle. Have you seen this happening? This acceleration or lack of urgency?
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen a lack of urgency. Most companies I talk to are starting to realize that, one, there's so many factors driving it, right? We got to keep the data safe, cookie deprecation, and now retail media and all of this stuff is a forcing factor on companies needing a CDP. And in the sector I work in, retail, it is a must-have because the loyalty data, the frequency, and the retail media is causing the must-have a CDP nature. So I haven't seen it, but I don't know about some of the other industries, yeah. CPGs, so look, I think CPGs are not all the way there. Tomorrow, we're gonna hear from 2 leading CPGs who are there. And so I get the pleasure of moderating a session tomorrow. I think it's at 10:30 on the main stage about that. If I were a CPG, and I did spend 6 years as an officer of craft companies, I would develop a relationship with my consumers instead of having to sell to the retailer, they sell to the consumer, and I don't get the data. So I would encourage folks to invest in a CDP.